Thanks for joining. We'll start this off in a second. We'll just let everybody kind of get in here and uh, get situated. So grab a drink and kick back for a little bit. Awesome. So today we're joined by Matt Gruber. He's a sought after wedding photographer in the Philadelphia area. Loved and respected by everybody that checks out his work and gets to know him. So Matt, thank you for joining us. We're here to just chat a little bit about um, your flow of using second shooters, just kind of your entire approach to that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how many weddings you shoot a year, and how you got started in the industry and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I've been shooting weddings for I guess 14 years now, which seems like forever and not a
Yeah,
long time at the same time. Um, I, I went from shooting like 30 weddings a year to like 50, and one year I did like 55, and the past couple years it's been around 40. I want to like eventually get that to like 25 or 30, but I have a hard time saying no.
yeah,
So yeah, eventually I'd like to get to like 30 would be my sweet spot.
yeah,
Shoot enough where you're out of the house and having fun, but you're not completely trained.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so on a typical wedding, like, are you doing it hourly? Are you doing full day with multiple shooters? What's your typical setup?
Yeah, I've always done all day coverage.
Hmm.
It works for me. I don't want to have to kind of like overwhelm people with, okay, I'm going to show up at this time, and which means I'm going to leave at this time and stuff like that. Um, it's been a good selling point, but also just it's super easy. I'm like, hey, let me know what time you want me to be there, and then tell me to go home at some point, or I'll just stay there until the end.
Yeah,
Try to keep it easy.
yeah. I am the same way. I do full day coverage with my weddings. I basically tell couples, look, at the end of the day, you're not buying hours. You're buying coverage of your wedding. You're going to have important moments from hair and makeup in the
Hmm.
morning all the way till the end of the night. And it's not like I'm going to book another job the same day. So we're
Right.
going to be there for you. We're going to have a blast. We're going to have a good time. So take the same approach. That's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. So do you have a team, or do you shoot by yourself? How does that work?
Uh, I am a one man show.
Okay.
And pretty much most aspects. I don't have I don't shoot solo. I always have a second shooter,
Okay.
but I don't have like associates or people that I'm paying, on
Right.
payroll or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you work with the
keep
same
it
second
small.
shooter all the time, or do you hire different people at different times?
Yeah, there's like five or six people that I go to first,
Okay.
but I don't have one dedicated person, and I'm ideally not trying to just find like random people. I try to
Hmm.
keep my circle close and small. But yeah, it's all different people.
Yeah. So what's the kind of criteria or qualifications you're looking for in somebody that you're hiring?
They have to obviously know how to use a camera, but
Yeah.
for me, you would think. But for me, like their quality of work and their portfolio is like the least of my concerns.
Yeah.
The most important thing for me when I'm looking for somebody is their work ethic. Are they a pleasure to be around? Are they uh, easygoing, enough with the couple and their families in order to like let them feel calm, but also know when you have to get stuff done. So I
Hmm.
guess personality is like the number one thing for me, and work
Hmm.
ethic. Yeah. How
Yeah.
about with you?
It is at this point in my career, it's the same. I think if I was hiring random people when I first started and I didn't have the same experience I have now, I would probably hire somebody that had an awesome skill set and I'd care a little bit less about the personality and
Mhm.
professionalism. Obviously, you don't want somebody like, swearing all day in front of your couple
Right.
and taking smoke breaks during the ceremony and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, um, you know, I would probably want somebody with a strong portfolio because ultimately that's going to overall increase the quality of the batch of images that um, we deliver to the clients.
Yeah.
Now, I want to make sure somebody is there. They're going to cover groom prep, or the other person that I'm not covering. Um, but aside from that, I really don't rely on their work like some
Right.
do. That's just me. I know a lot of other shooters. You shoot with them, and or other studios rather. They they're like, okay, it's a total collaboration. We're basically two lead shooters. We're going to work off of each other. And that's kind of a different philosophy. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not necessarily the way that I do it. There are weddings where I have single coverage and it's just me. And there are weddings where I have two shooters, three shooters sometimes if it's a massive wedding. And so it really all depends. But look, I want to be able to trust the shooter that I hire to get the shots that I need them to get. So if they're doing groom prep, like I need them to be able to knock it out of the park, because I don't want to have to go back through and be like, hey, I'm gonna shoot your groom portraits again, just to be safe. Like you don't want
Right.
to have that because that doesn't communicate confidence to the
No.
couple in any way. And there are also times where like I might go out at the end of the night or toward the end of the night and scout out some night shot locations, and I want to make sure that the second shooter is able to handle if something happens on the dance floor, if there's some crazy
Exactly.
moment, or the coordinator all of a sudden decides, okay, it's cake cutting time, we're going to nail this. Now I need to make sure that that second shooter can handle it.
Yep.
So that's kind of my approach to it. Um, did you do any second shooting when you first started shooting?
No, actually, I probably went close to like 8 to 10 years before I even second shot at all. No, no, I lied. My very first wedding, I second shot, but after that, I went probably like 8 to 10 years before I second shot. Um, so I didn't really get that experience of
Yeah.
working with different people and seeing how different people did things. So it's been a interesting experience as I meet new second shooters and see the things that they do and kind of pick up tips and tricks from them, which is
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. Now, before we went live here, you and I were talking a little bit about just the past 3 weekends. I had picked up three jobs on Shoot With Me, and all three different photographers. And it's so interesting to see how different people work. And you do pick up on little tricks and things that they say to the
Hmm.
couple that helps them be more comfortable, or
Yep.
just different perspectives. And it's like at no point does a photographer arrive where they're like, okay, I have it all figured out
Hmm.
and my way is the best way. It's like you can learn from somebody that's on their first year of shooting. You might not learn anything technical, but you might learn some just like, connection things, or you might learn some, how they approach certain things or how they communicate, which is all very helpful. Um,
Hmm.
no, that's
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah. So leading up to a wedding, how do you communicate with your second shooters? What kind of expectations do you set with them, or do you kind of just say, "Hey, show up here and do your thing"?
Uh, it all depends. If it's somebody that I've worked with before and they kind of know how I work and I know how they work, I'll give them the important info. And then when we meet up before the wedding, kind of go over the game plan a little bit more. If it's somebody that I've never worked with before, I try to give them as much information as possible without being overwhelming. I'm a pretty easygoing person to work with. Like
Yeah.
I just want you to show up, do your work. If there's anything important, I'll let you know. But I would imagine that you're like professional enough and comfortable enough to understand this is what needs to get done, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Do you use your second shooter kind of as a hybrid assistant, or do you bring assistants along as well?
No, I'm very what's the word? I'm not lazy, so I carry all of my stuff. I do.
Yeah.
I'd rather just like move the light stand myself instead of
Yeah.
like telling somebody move it this way. Wait, no, no, back this way. No, back this way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I just do it all myself.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I know one of the growing trends that I've seen is having like a dedicated assistant holding a light or whatever, and you get some really cool shots that way.
Hmm.
But it is, there's a lot more communication that has to happen, and it's not
Right.
always necessary. You can get cool shots from it, but it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool.
To each
Yeah,
their own.
absolutely. Listen, that's the thing. Look, there are so many different ways to shoot a wedding and how to
Hmm.
approach it, and you can be all about creating awesome art, or you can be all about just shooting it as it's happening and capture things in an organic way, or a mix of the two. There's some schools of thought where you're posing everything the entire day, and others where you don't do any posing, and if the couple
Right.
wants family pictures, they have to set them up themselves. And
Yeah.
it's all about figuring out like individually, like what do you want your brand to do, and what kind of clients are you trying to reach. And some of it's your personality type, some of it's your experience or how you were trained or whatever. But unless you are just like a complete jerk to people and delivering awful images, like you be you. Like there's no, don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to do things a certain way because a photographer that you respect does it that way. If it doesn't align with what naturally works for you and what your couples are looking for, yeah, just be yourself. So it's kind of off
Absolutely.
topic, but um, now that's awesome. So let me jump over my questions here. I had a handful of questions for you. Um,
Yeah.
oh yeah, are there specific things like on the wedding day that you have your second shooters cover that you're not, other than like groom prep or the other partner prep?
The only thing that I really ask them to do, which I feel like is common, is a cocktail hour.
Yeah,
Just because either I'm taking pictures of the couple then, or just taking a mental break so I don't go insane.
yeah, yeah,
Not that I would ever do that, but
yeah. Yeah. So then like after a wedding or an event, do you give your second shooter feedback like once you've gone through their images, or do you kind of just say, hey, it is what it is?
yeah, I will definitely give feedback. I think it's helpful. A lot of the stuff for me, I don't give a lot of like photo critique necessarily, like, oh, use these settings in this situation. It's more so just like I'm asking why they did something, like if they felt it was necessary, if that's how they were taught to do it. Maybe just something that I'm not considering. But yeah, if something is like bad or they messed up, I will definitely let them know in a very
Do you have an
kind
example?
and polite
Like,
way.
yeah, yeah, of course. Do you have an
Yeah.
example of something where you might question somebody about?
Yeah. This is something that's more of like a shooting feedback, but I have a very good friend of mine who shoots with me a lot, and he is awesome and he's wonderful. And if he's watching this, I love you. But he has a tendency to cut off people's heads like all the time when it
Yeah.
comes to like, groom and each groomsman and stuff like that. And I'm like, bro, like you can't.
Right.
The head is the most important part of the photo. Like you need their face in
Head
there.
and
Yeah.
hands. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if it's certain camera settings. I will ask them about them. Like, hey, like, why do you know that you can shoot above like ISO 2500? Like, it's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Unless you
some
have like a
people say that
D80
they,
from
right, right.
2004 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't, there's people that I know, there's studios out there that they tell their shooters, like, unless you absolutely have to, do not go above ISO 1000, which to me is wild, but like,
Yeah.
that's their thing. So
Right.
I just had to let them know, hey, if you're working for me, like I don't care what your settings are as long as you get the image.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I had a conversation with a second shooter that I'm working with tomorrow. I was talking to her this morning, and it's the first time I'm working with her, so we are just kind of going over some things, and she was asking like if I want images with noise in them, like if intentionally shooting high ISO or
Mhm.
what. I said, look, shoot it as low as you need to in order to get a properly exposed shot. Like I'm not looking to deliver images that have super grainy styles or whatever.
Mhm.
That's not what I'm looking for. But other people are. So it's like as a second shooter, knowing that about this photographer you're
Right.
working with is important, and it's great to have those conversations. Um, Rather than waiting until after the event and being like, why did
Yeah.
you do this or whatever. So
Right.
it's always easier to have that conversation ahead of time. And that's
Mhm.
awesome. What kind of advice would you give somebody that is kind of just new to the whole photography thing? They're a good photographer, but they are not necessarily experienced in weddings. What can they do to be an awesome second shooter for you?
I guess just be willing to work hard. Be willing to work hard. Um, Listen, accept critique when it's warranted, um, and just really wanting to learn. And just kind of like following and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you think that somebody that's just starting out might be more focused on getting portfolio shots for themselves over doing what's
Yeah.
best for you? Like how
Yeah, that's
like
probably
how do you
true.
communicate? Like if I had never shot a wedding before, but you knew I was a decent photographer and I was coming along to second shoot or even third shoot maybe, what kind of advice would you give me specifically that um, I don't know would make sure that my goals for the day were in alignment with yours?
Yeah, I guess I would just tell you to focus on specific things, that I'm
Yeah.
looking that are important for me that I think that you could capture, instead of trying to guess what might be important. You know,
Yeah.
I'd probably give you dedicated things to
Yeah.
work
Like,
on.
hey, stand here, shoot the first look this way,
Hmm.
try to get reactions and whatever else. Yeah. Kind of
Yeah,
like a,
for sure.
as much as we hate working off of lists, kind of make it kind of formulaic
Yeah.
for them. That's cool.
Right, because there,
Is
there there are times where I've worked with second shooters, and it's my fault, and I realized after the fact that I didn't give them enough direction and
right.
just assumed like because everybody else that I've worked with shoots this way that they're going to do that, and when I go back and look through the images, I'm like, oh no, like why did you stand there? But it's my fault because I didn't properly convey,
Right.
hey, this is what I'm looking for in this situation.
Right. Are there any like cardinal sins that somebody would commit on a wedding day? They would be like, I'm never working with this person again.
Yes, yeah.
Like what?
I I have a potty mouth, but like
Okay.
there's a time and a place for it. Like
Yeah.
in the middle of a wedding, probably not the best place for it, especially when you're dealing with so many different families and
Sure.
people and age ranges and stuff like that. Like you have to be professional. You can have a good time, but uh, somebody that's going to like cause a scene, not for me. Um, and then showing up late, skipping out, like if I can't find you, things like that, like
Right.
I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to work.
Or
I do not want
or
to work with you again.
or this texting on their phone all
Yeah,
day
yeah,
long.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably less on the shooting stuff. It's more on the professionalism
Hmm.
and how they're acting during the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As long as I
I'm the same
have
way.
the images afterwards, um, yeah, that's what's important. But like, I cannot deal with like the texting in the middle of the church in front of the parents in the middle of the ceremony. Like, no,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
Yeah. So if you could go back and restart your career, would you do more second shooting earlier on, or would you?
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do regret like not going that route. Because there's so much stuff that I would have learned a long time ago that I
Yeah.
didn't learn, until like halfway through my career where I was like, oh my God, you can take a picture of time.gov and sync up the cameras. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
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 Even stuff like that. Like,
Yeah. Seriously, it's funny. Like I never did that. I would go
mm,
in like two cameras. Like I would make sure that the times were synced there, but my second shooters, I would just go find a moment that I knew we were shooting the same thing
right.
at the same
Yeah.
time
You would go like
in
the first
Lightroom.
kiss and yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I actually was working with a photographer a couple of weeks ago, and I forgot to sync my
Mm,
cameras that way. I forgot to take a picture of time.gov. So she texted me and she was like, "Hey, can you take a picture of time.gov?" And I'm like, "You can do this after the day." And she's like, "Just send me an email with the files." I'm like, "What?" So I've been doing this 15 years and I still figure things out.
right.
People are like, "Dude, you're an
Exactly.
idiot. Like, what's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
Like on the shooting style, do you feel your shooting style would be different if you would have worked with other people, or do you think it kind of would have gotten to the same result anyway?
It definitely would have gotten different.
Yeah.
And hopefully in a good way, because I pick up stuff from second shooters all the time, whether it's their second year in business or they've been in for like 10 years. Just because everybody does things differently. So even when it comes to reception lighting or how to shoot, a first look, whatever it is, even just communicating with people, um, I pick up things from everybody. And yeah, that would have been super helpful.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah. I did not second shoot for people, and I didn't go to workshops, and I didn't take education stuff. I was like, I'm just a figure it out kind of guy. And
Yep.
I stumbled upon Lightroom early on in the process, and I figured that out, and I don't know, it's just different. And I know other people that do fantastic work that, like, when they decided they wanted to be a wedding photographer, they went in totally and basically like did all the education, did all this different stuff, and they were able to scale and become who they are now in a matter of a couple of years rather than you know significantly
Right.
longer than that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, awesome. Well, Matt, is there anything else you want to share with people about second shooting or anything? pops into your mind?
No, no.
Awesome.
Other than just like, especially for the people that are primarily second shooting and looking to get your name out there and stuff like that, just reach out and second shoot for as many people as you can and just gain that wealth of knowledge of working with different people. And yeah,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. For people that are just getting started, if you don't feel like you're confident in your shooting skills, start by assisting,
hmm,
because there are a lot of photographers that do hire assistants. Although Matt and I don't on a regular basis, there are a ton that do. And by assisting, you might work with somebody that will let you shoot from time to time. And it's a way for you to grow in understanding what a wedding day's expectations are. Um, but you're also learning from people that are doing it, and there's not super pressure moments there where they're relying on you for things. So it's a really
hmm,
easy entryway to get into it. Obviously, create a profile and shoot with me, set your availability, go through that process, because people that are searching for assistance in your area, they'll be able to find you that way. When you get to the point where you're ready to start second shooting, do the same thing. I've booked all of my second shooting jobs through Shoot With Me this year, and it's been easy. It's effortless. So
super
obviously,
easy.
want to plug that. So
You
obviously,
got
then also,
what
yeah. Go ahead.
what you guys have done is just to, like the word game changer like gets thrown around like it really is. So
Thank you.
high five on that.
Thanks. Yeah. Now, and listen, Mike and I built Shoot With Me because we got tired of constantly having to post
Hmm.
in Facebook groups and say, hey, I need a second shooter for this date, this location, or whatever. It was a hassle. And
Hmm.
you get all these people that were commenting, and three of them are in Kentucky and two are in New Hampshire, and it's like you're not even local to the job. Why are you commenting on this? It's a pain in the butt. So this was a way that we could make it so that you're seeing people that are actually available on the day of your thing. You can view their portfolio. You can see everything you want to see, apples to apples, read reviews, and if they're a good fit, you offer them the job.
The reviews are the best part,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
hands down,
Yeah.
because it
So
holds people accountable.
it holds people accountable, absolutely. And then, listen, we still have things we're going to bring to the platform to make it better. Lots of updates coming in the future. But as it is right now, I'm speaking as a photographer, not as the founder of the company. It has completely changed how I find help for jobs, and how I get hired. Real talk, my second shooter had to bail a couple days ago for tomorrow's wedding. Um, anyway, I had to jump on Shoot With Me. I had somebody booked in 59 minutes. I quickly created the job, set my queue, hit finalize queue, got back to work. I was working outside, and in 59 minutes, I had somebody booked. Didn't sweat it. Before this, I would have
Right.
jumped on Facebook. I would have jumped in all the groups, freaking out because it's a wedding
Hmm.
that's a couple hours away from me. I don't have connections there, and it was effortless. So that is an absolute resource
Yeah.
people should take advantage of. Don't pay a dime until you actually get value from it. So, and studios don't pay anything ever to use it. So there's no good reason not to.
Agreed.
That's my plug. But Matt, thank you for joining us today. Shared a lot of helpful information for people that are looking to second shoot. Also for studios, just kind of how to communicate better with their second shooters, and have an awesome wedding season.
Yeah. Thanks, man. You too.
All right, see ya.